That's probably what it is.
Good.
Oh,
Spend one line.
because there's no line item for the other one, so it has to be all together.
Ready to go?
I'm ready when
Ready
you
to
are,
ready.
Mr. Chair.
Welcome, everybody. It's 6 o'clock on September 11th, 2023. This is our regularly scheduled Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency monthly meeting. And welcome, everybody. We would ask our secretary to call the roll, please.
Commissioner Porter,
Here.
Commissioner Doty,
Here.
Commissioner Warwick. Here. Commissioner Brooks. Moore,
Here.
Commissioner Allgood,
Here.
Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
Very good. As always, is there a conflict of interest with anything on our agenda this evening for any of the commissioners? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. I'm not aware of any special presentations. None have been brought to our attention, so we'll move on to public comments. Rob, you have anything that you want to?
Member of the public.
We want to welcome Rob Pilot this evening. It's always good to see him. That takes us to our consent calendar, and we will entertain a motion as to its disposition.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I move we approve the consent calendar as listed.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Ms. Warwick. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Doty. Any further comments? Would the secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Warwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner Moore,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood,
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia,
Yes.
Commissioner Porter,
Yes.
Commissioner Doty.
Yes.
Takes us to old business, of which there be none, and that will take us right up to new business. Update report on the property at Kimball and Blaine. Typically, Rob would be here to handle that, but I know he's got a kids event tonight. Is there anything that we need to know from staff?
I don't probably know.
Okay, very good. Takes us to an action item to consider invoices for payment. Ray Lynn.
Thank you. So tonight we have 2 fiscal years of invoices. Sounds like a lot, it's not. So we have $9,805 for August attorney services, $12,000. This is coming out of operating for the feasibility study for the Clearwater Financial, $18,000 for the September economic development contributions, $1,092,424.24 for project 2, $16,245.96 for project 13, $10,017.49 for project 5, $450.70 for project 22, $5,413.80 for project 17, $266.22 coming out of operating for public hearing notices, $62,238.72 for project 20, $1,686.88 for project 1, $2,798 for project 11, $1,421,075 for project 20, $49,375.46 for project 9, and for fiscal year 24, $6,427 for the first half of the ICRIM payment, for total $4,392,551.37.
Thank you, Ray Lynn. Questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty.
Raylan, let's go to project number 9,
Project 9.
for the Chase project.
Yes.
So on the handout you've given us, it still says hotel site improvements. And we had talked, earlier in the month about, since they're not putting in a hotel, that you were going to divide up maybe what the city had paid towards the hotel and what the city had paid towards the apartments. And I'm wondering how much we've paid towards the hotel.
So what we're looking at and what we are reviewing, Rochelle and I, so we still have a couple invoices we haven't paid. And what we are paying for are not hotel site improvements. We are paying for improvements for street improvements only. So that's what we are paying for. So they're not the site improvements for the hotel. They're not for the apartment improvements. They're specific for like the street improvements, like sidewalks and stuff like that. So.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rohde?
So when it says hotel, it doesn't really mean hotel?
No, it's not actually a hotel. That's just what we call, I would say that there are specific things, especially in the project, that were approved. And so when we look at the invoices, it's not even actually for the hotel. They're more for like, I would say sidewalk. I'm trying to think of other examples off the top of my head. It's been a couple weeks since I actually looked at it, but more like sidewalks and infrastructure of those types of nature, but not for the hotel.
Okay, so out of the $3,241,043, not a penny of that has been spent towards the hotel.
No.
So the ground that the hotel's going on, if we did any soil tests or anything for that, and now they're not gonna put a hotel in there, would that be
So-
considered money spent towards the hotel?
I know, if I remember right, that Urban Renewal did some ground improvements before then to get it site ready. So if I remember right, doing some research.
Okay, and specifically, do you remember our conversation about a crane that said it was for the hotel?
Mm-hmm.
Was that crane for the hotel?
So in looking at it, there are some admin costs that are approved in this. However, I'd have to go invoice by invoice. I'd be happy to give the committee with details of each invoice if they want to go through.
Yeah, my frustration clearly isn't with you. My
Mhm.
frustration is the taxpayers' dollars are spent, or may not have been spent, on a project that a company RFP that is no longer gonna build that project. So if we've given them money, and that money was specifically, I guess, designed or was allocated for the hotel,
Mhm.
and I'm not saying anyone has, and that money wasn't used for the hotel, I want that money back.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, no, I do understand that. And I know that both myself and Rob and Rochelle, the Public Works Director and the City Treasurer, are all reviewing the invoices, making sure that we're not approving stuff that shouldn't be approved. And I think that we need to have additional conversations with the city attorney just to make sure going forward, if we need to collect money back, then we need
Right,
to dig a little bit further.
I apologize for interrupting. Right, and we had that conversation the last time we were here last month to do that. So that's my frustration with approving this tonight, under just the chase, is that we don't know if we've given any money for a hotel that doesn't exist, and it is not going to be built. And we're just constantly approving money for DeChase. And again, it may very well be allocated for the whole project, or clearly we're not gonna build half a sidewalk or something like that. But if it was specific, in order to put that hotel on that spot, and we paid for something, now they go, well, never mind, we're not putting the hotel there. I believe they owe us that money back. If we put in infrastructure or electricity, or made a certain driveway for them, or took out soil and replaced it with certain soil, that they owe that money back for the hotel that they promised that they're not coming forth on. And you've heard me say it in here before, people are quick to line up at the trough to get our checks. And then a lot of times they want to change their RFPs or come back and then cancel the whole project and then just walk away, we'll just give it back to the city. Well, I think it's bigger than that. I think they owe us any money back that we promised them and gave them for their promise of whatever product they were going to produce, so. Have I beat this horse enough? Is that, am I good?
Perhaps.
Okay.
Mark, do you recall the specifics in the DDA as to what could be refunded back to them as part of this project?
long list of
And again, we're not gonna build half a new sidewalk and not the other half, but if we did things specific for the hotel
Only the hotel.
to be built,
yeah.
I would like a list of those, and I believe that they owe that money back then, if they're going to cancel their hotel out, so.
yeah.
It would probably be good to revisit the DDA, go back and look and make sure that we're,
There's a meeting with the Chase and the offing, and I'll report on that tonight, but this.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
so, Raven, it's conceivable then that of the remaining $607,000, some of that might not be spent,
That is correct, yeah.
right? I mean, if some of that was just hotel. And one more thing, everything else in your numbering system, they match up the project list to what we're calling it on the agenda, except that one. We call it Creekside Mixed Use here, and we call it Hotel Site Improvements here. So it might be good if we were to make those match up.
I can definitely change that. I mean, it's to your committee's discretion if you choose not to pay that invoice, so.
Mr. Allgood?
Yeah, Ray Lynn, would you tell me about, the bill number one, Clearwater Financial, $12,000 annual retainer? Can you tell me what that is exactly?
So in last urban renewal, meeting, we approved a contract for the feasibility study for the new urban renewal area, that we're researching, and part of that is, to do a new urban renewal area, you have to have a feasibility study, and that contract, total amount of that was $35,000. And so this is one portion of that.
Okay, so this is, okay, all right, because I'm aware as the council, we spent money with them,
For fire, yes,
not the same.
not the same,
Not associated.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
getting back to Councilman Doty's question, this is the first I've heard of this accounting. What's the standard procedure to follow that? I mean, it seems like a pretty important deal there. Since backed out of an RFP, money's,
I think it's gotta go that direction. I don't know what,
Mr. Chairman, the RFP with the Chase for the Creekside development had two phases. The first was the apartment mixed-use phase that's nearing completion. The second was the hotel phase. In addition, well, as part of the incentive package, there was $3.2 million set aside, and then there was identified a list of projects that would qualify as urban renewal projects on their own, or would qualify for funding. So we don't build apartments for anybody, but we can do utilities and certain parking areas. There's frontage improvements, sidewalks, streetscapes, those types of things. And I can't give you the entire list, but there was a list of eligible projects that could be reimbursed out of that not to exceed pool. So this is what they've been submitting invoices for, and it may be that the nomenclature is incorrect, but those are, so when they say that they need look at the number $49,375, what they're representing is that they've spent that.
mm-hmm.
They submit that essentially as a draw request.
Mm-hmm.
It is routed through our Public Works Department, and then Public Works reviews that, I think, and communicates with Ray Lynn's office and says, yeah, they poured this many feet of sidewalk, or, this much curb, or put in street lights, or whatever it was that was being represented. So that's the process, and question is well received, right? Is any of that specific to the hotel phase? As I sit here, I can't tell you that, but we can certainly go back and look at that list.
Right.
and find out.
Okay, so I guess my question is, with that, thanks for that clarification, where's the checks and balances on that? I mean, how did that trigger with you to bring that up? Is that just an automatic balance that somebody's looking at that each draw is specified for what project?
Yeah, so all of our invoices are signed off, approved by, departments, so
Mm-hmm.
before finance reviews them and submits them for payment, so.
Mr. Chair. So, yeah, and that's my concern, right? Out of the 3.2 million, there's only $614,000 left, and we're not getting a hotel. So my strong concern is that all this money is gonna be burnt through and no hotel.
When it's
So-
designated, earmarked certain parts.
Well,
of
it may, I don't know, that's the
Right.
point,
No,
and
no, I
normally,
understand that. I'm just trying to figure
Yeah.
out, how did that trigger with you?
once they canceled it, I thought, how much money have we spent towards the hotel and the hotel site? And then I got with Ray Lynn, and,
I would think that would be tracked all the way along, wouldn't it? Shouldn't it?
well, remember, Ray Lynn's new, so there was a lot of entries that caused me concern. Again, was everything just lumped to call it the hotel site? You know, and like, we saw a crane on there for the hotel, and there's no hotel. And I don't want the crane money for the hotel being spent on the apartment complex hotel. I get that we don't build the apartment, but I certainly don't want to blow through $3 million in an apartment complex is built
Right.
and no hotel, and we put money in to have a hotel built.
Sure,
So-
there should be an accounting of all of that. So, and you brought that up in August meeting, city council, or?
No,
What month are we in?
This is September, I think it was in July when they presented.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, and I'm like,
Mr.
okay,
Chair,
we should know that.
I believe I don't think the hotel is completely canceled. I think we tabled it based on, I guess, the interest rates coming down. I don't think it's fully canceled,
Oh, it is,
is it?
yeah, it's
Well, for sure by DeChase.
by DeChase.
Okay. I'm
So I
just
guess,
concerned about the accounting side of it.
We just, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hildur, but didn't we agree to allow them to strike that part of the DDA, and you guys were gonna fix that?
Mr. Chairman, I've got a report on this. Maybe now's the time to give it, if we want to take it.
I'd appreciate it.
Sure, yeah, let's
Okay.
move that direction. Thank you.
Little break, Ray Lynn. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What happened in the July meeting was that DeChase came and made a long presentation with a PowerPoint about how it wasn't feasible to go forward with the hotel project. And then the question, I think, was put to Dean Pepe, the principal, well, what would you like to see happen? And really what he said was, I would like to continue my relationship with the agency. We would like to continue to have this piece of property available for us to develop at some point, right? Realizing that he'd have to come back for approval of some alternate development on the site, and that potentially in the interim it would be dedicated to parking. We were sent away to negotiate that with them as a team. What has happened in the interim, there's been voices on staff. There's been, I think, from Jim, from the mayor, saying, you know, really maybe what ought to happen with that site is that it comes back to the agency. Now that maybe needs to be transferred to the city as we close out the Urban Renewal Agency, but the city can put parking on it. We have a new downtown urban renewal area that will be up and running by the end of the year. And so the opportunity for the agency to take that property and do a new RFP in the near future should be in place. That would involve the city transferring it back to the agency. I think, before I get too far ahead of myself, I think there's been a shift on our side away from allowing DeChase to sort of wait out the interest rates and find a different development and maybe just take that property back. And so my report simply was going to be that that's probably the way we'll take that discussion. We need to amend that development. Whatever we do, we need to amend the development agreement, because as we sit here right now, they're obligated to build a hotel, and I think it was pretty clear that they're not going to do that. And they're asking for relief. I mean, and I think that the agency understood where that was going and was willing to grant them that relief. But I think, you know, the way that this is going, at least on our side of it, is that property needs to come back. So what I'm anticipating is we have sort of three things: a meeting that involves that discussion, bringing the property back, canceling that portion of the DDA, which is going to involve a contract amendment, and then really analyzing what has been paid for with respect to improvements specific to the hotel. And when I say that, it may be, I understand where you're going. I understand what we need to look for. As we start to look at actual projects on the ground, it may wind up being a little bit complicated. Let me give you an example. With the half a sidewalk you mentioned, if there has been, and I don't know the answer to this, but money paid to reimburse for sidewalk improvements all the way along Main Street within the right-of-way. And that was paid for by the Urban Renewal Agency, but the property is coming back to the Urban Renewal Agency for development into a parking lot. It probably is equitable that would have been a cost that the agency should have paid, as opposed to not reimbursing them demand. So I'm anticipating we're going to find stuff that would have been adjacent to the hotel, really for phase two, that could have been paid for, where it's not going to be super clear that they need to pay that back, and we'll have to have that discussion with them. Probably look at line by line at what they've been paid for, where the improvement is, and what it was intended for, and those types of things. We certainly may find something, right? So if there have been utilities run underground for that hotel site, that were paid for by the agency, and now the hotel's not going there, I get it, right? That's different. So it's going to require, some review of that, of those the monthly draw requests that they've submitted over several months. But again, I see that discussion having to take place along with getting that property back and an amendment to the DDA.
Sure.
Mr. Doty?
So that's my concern, is even though some of those improvements are there, whether it's curbside to make it look beautiful or whatever, they know right now today they are not building a hotel. So they can spend as much money as they want, so to speak, to make the apartment complex and all the things that fall within urban renewal, to make that as beautiful as possible and blow through the whole $3 million, because they know they're not spending a dime for a bush or rocks or whatever to make the hotel look good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what I'm preventing, or trying to prevent, is that they don't take the whole $3 million and make their apartment look beautiful. And I'm also a little concerned about, I would appreciate it if the land is turned back over to the city, but what I don't understand is a $250,000 parking lot paid by DeChase is a lot cheaper than a $20 million hotel. So I'm not sold on just turn the land back over to the city and it's all good. I think they still get quite a deal if the hotel was going to cost them $20 million and they put it in a parking lot. My issue is now they turn that land back over to us. Now again, the taxpayers fund the parking lot to get it paved and ready for Christmas, and they spend the whole $3 million on just their apartment complex. So I'm not saying they're not spending the money, so to speak, but if it's all towards the apartment complex and none towards the hotel, that concerns me too.
That's a good point. Just so I can paraphrase, so I can take the message back and have that conversation. You're saying, look, the concept behind this, the assumption behind this $3.2 million incentive is that it was going to be somehow distributed between both phases, and now we're only getting one phase.
And that's correct, right? Unless I'm wrong, they weren't going to just stop the beautification up to the apartment and let the hotel be dirt around the hotel, right? They were going to beautify
Correct.
that too with urban renewal dollars, and now they're not.
Right.
And that's what I'm saying. Whatever they, in their minds or in their head, they were going to use to beautify the hotel within urban renewal rules and laws, I don't want them now spending all that money on the apartment complex.
Understood.
Any other questions for Mark?
Yes.
Mr. Hoggett?
Along with what Councilor Doty is saying there. So what I'm thinking, kind of along the same lines, is their building is up, they're doing interior work, et cetera. Can we establish a time when draws will stop? Like, they say we have done the exterior improvements. The road is as good as it's gonna get. There will be no more draws at some point. If we could get a kind of a date or something for that?
Yeah, certainly we can look at that. It's going to depend on, where they're at and some of these this category of qualifying projects.
I don't think we did, but we didn't spend any money on a parking plan with them specifically, did we?
No.
I didn't think we did, but I know that was part of the hotel deal, was signifying so many parking permits for them, but I don't know that we spent any money on that yet.
No, there's been no, I don't think, that's not, I don't anticipate that's something that's gonna cost any money. And that's coming forward, here in the near future with city council, because that'll be a council decision.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
I mean, my concern was, here we are 2 months later, and, you know, we've got $600,000 left. What triggers that to where we say, okay, we're done in July, we got 2 more, so all that 600 just doesn't go into what Councilman Doty just described. I didn't pay attention to it.
Mr. Chair,
Ms. Warwick?
I'm thinking that DeChase, because they knew how much we allotted toward that project for improvements, I'm thinking they've got a budget somewhere, a written budget, that says what they're gonna spend that money on. So that might be helpful in making the determination of the things that they are no longer going to do, to know how much they originally budgeted needed to be backed out of there.
Yep, exactly.
Mr. Chair, I was just gonna actually say that as well. Is typically, I wouldn't call for a timeline as it is, how much is left to be built out still, based on that. And I think it's gonna be a little challenging too on the infrastructure side of things, and especially when transformers were sized for both buildings. Whether a building's, the hotel's going in there or not, it still would have to have been put in, for whatever structure goes in there in the future. So those are the things I think gonna be pretty difficult to kind of break out, but it's possible, so.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr.
Great. I
Doty.
think, Mr. Chairman, procedurally, we probably hadn't quite gotten to paying the bills.
Nope.
That-
Right.
Where
We haven't.
I
That's right.
interrupted everybody.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you, Mark. Raylene, back to you. Okay, any other questions for Raylene?
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Mr. Moore?
Line 5 there, Luby Park, and I guess I walk in and I guess there's a grand opening tomorrow. There's $212,000 remaining. We got a check in here for 10 grand and some change to pay. So I guess there's still stuff that needs to be completed. Is that right?
Yes.
Or did we come under budget? That'd be neat if we came in under budget, right?
I talked to, Julie today. So one of the things is the contractors have been behind schedule and they've been delaying. And so she actually threatened them with a $500 a day penalty if they did not get going with it, and, take it all the way back till June. And they started back finishing. So because Parks and Rec has had to delay the opening several times because of it, so,
But the grand opening is tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
yeah.
And there's still
So-
things that need to be completed and paid for, correct?
Yes, there's still some outstanding bills. We just haven't received them to process.
Got it. Thanks for explaining that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, we will entertain a motion as to the disposition of these bills.
Mr. Doty? In a motion, would we want to retain that 49,000 until you get some answers, or are you good with
I would feel much more comfortable that way than to give it and try and get it back.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir. Mr. Allgood.
I'd make a motion that we approve the, bill invoices outlined, by our finance department, excluding the payment of $49,375, dollars and 46 cents to DeChase. We will refer back to that once we get some answers.
Very good. We have a,
I'll second
Second
that. Oh, give it to Dave. It was a tie.
that's pretty charitable. Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Allgood, a second by Mr. Moore. Any further comments or questions? Does Secretary call the roll?
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
You're about to read.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes.
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Very good. That takes us to the Treasurer Report with our monthly cash reconciliation.
So as you can see, our tax deposits are definitely down. In North Urban Renewal, the tax increment was less than $500, so it's pretty small. Our interest, is staying up there, pretty consistent. Total cash in both, combined in both the Banner Bank and LGIP together is $14,226,343.05. And then, our bond, which actually got paid off this month, so we're showing for August, total outstanding of $764,306.46. But it did get paid off in September, and it will have $32,000 in interest that will come back to, or the Urban Renewal Agency next month that you will see, so. That is what I have for cash reconciliation reports.
Questions? Okay, do we have a motion to, approve?
The treasurer's report?
Yes.
So moved.
A motion to approve by Mr. Doty,
Second.
second by Mr. Garcia. Would the secretary call the roll, please?
Commissioner Doty?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
Commissioner Moore?
Yes.
Commissioner Allgood?
Yes.
Commissioner Garcia?
Yes.
Commissioner Porter?
Yes. Takes us to an update report on our project list. Is that you again, Raylene?
That is me again.
All right.
As you can see from the updated current project list I gave you, it has the changes in budget that we did talk about from last meeting, with the movement around, and then the original budgets, so you can kind of compare those. This does not include the invoices that you did approve today, so you'll see that we've definitely spent a lot of the remaining budgets. There's a lot coming in from USTIC as those projects begin to open up and close. And some of these projects begin to close, which is great. And then, I have one more project that is going to be obligated, but then from my understanding, all of the projects are obligated. So next month, you'll see the Rice House before you under contract, but other than that, every other project will be obligated, so it's fantastic.
Very good. Any questions for Raylene? Very good.
Comment.
Oh.
Raylene, I still think you're doing a fantastic job, just so you
Thanks.
know.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
Thanks, Raylene.
Yep.
Brings us to our Economic Development Activity Report with Mr. Jenkins. Welcome, Stephen.
Thank you, Chairman, Commission. Appreciate your time this evening in advance. Raylene is awesome, so just wanted to echo that sentiment there. As I typically do, I'll start off with miscellaneous updates. So within North Ranch, we have AT Industrial. They built a 305,000 square foot speculation industrial building recently, and they're planning on a second one. So talked to their team a few weeks ago, and they were looking to submit for permits in the near future on that building. So excited to see that that subsequent investment come in. Sky Ranch, we have a national trucking company that purchased the final 12 acres remaining in the business park. So that business park seems to be 100% spoken for. So that's exciting to bring them and welcome a new group in there. And then Project Titanic, we have a group that continues to express interest in Caldwell. They work on a variety of projects from hotels to retail to commercial projects. They're very interested in doing an additional project in Caldwell. I actually have a meeting with them this next week, but they've been here a couple times to visit, and we're excited to hopefully entertain a project from them. And then National Burrito Chain, I can officially say it's now Chipotle on the boulevard. Been waiting a while to say that, but the old Popeyes will be occupied by Chipotle. They're hoping to open by tomorrow is what I heard last. I talked to them about a week and a half ago, and that was the target date for them to open. And then Project DT, this is a large-scale project in East Caldwell that will incorporate commercial and residential projects. They're working with a large anchor user that will support Caldwell's broader commercial needs. So again, this is in East Caldwell. And then Project Bright, this is a large industrial user that's moving forward with plans to locate in the Sky Ranch area. And discussions have been productive, plans are evolving quickly, have been talking to them very frequently. We're really excited to welcome them into the Caldwell community. Things are looking bright on that one for sure. And then Patainer, they're a plastics manufacturer. They moved into a 5,000 square foot building on an industrial way, on the Industrial Way Business Park is what we call it internally. And they're now looking for opportunities to expand. So their footprint was a little smaller than they were looking for, and then they just wanted to occupy space and eventually outgrew that space. So we're working with them pretty closely to find additional space for their needs here in the Caldwell area. And then Project Richard, this is Obi Companies. Excited to officially say that one as well. They're moving forward with plans to build that boutique hotel in downtown Caldwell. And then Project Avery, this retailer remains interested in downtown Caldwell. They are reviewing opportunities to build or lease space on or near the Indian Creek Plaza. And then Project Lansing, this is Roderick Enterprises. This group is out of Salt Lake City. Construction's underway on their industrial project on aviation. It's also within the Sky Ranch area. The project's valued at $7 million, will create 20 to 25 jobs. Building will be 40,000 square feet roughly. And then Fat Guy's Fresh Deli opening next month. I did drive by and see that they were painting the interior red, so it's a good sign that they're on their way. It's official. And then Project Spot, this is a large retailer interested in the East Caldwell region. They've identified some acreage moving forward on that as well. So that's positive. Project Yonke, still working with this group on a site plan. Things are moving forward with them as well, a large commercial user. Federated Ordnance, their production is fully underway. Hiring is in full swing. The ribbon cutting is scheduled for September 20th for those that can make it. Hope to see you all there. Project Australia, they're growing. This is a group that's growing quickly, looking to expand within our market. They're seeking up to 300,000 square feet in Caldwell. And then Take 5 Oil Change, we just celebrated a ribbon cutting for them last week on the boulevard. And then within North Caldwell, Project Horizon, they have a site visit scheduled for this Wednesday. I'm excited to meet with their team. This is an international group that is looking to come into the area. And then annexation, we're still working with that property owner that's next in line to annex. Conversations have been very productive and promising, so hopeful to solidify that process shortly. And then just downtown updates, paid parking discussions continue to move forward, hoping to get that kicked off with the car park by the end of the year. They were approved at a recent city council meeting to be our parking management group. And then 502 and 504 Cleveland Boulevard, this is the old Sears building in downtown. That building sold to a new owner out of the Boise area. And then Tillion is installing appliances now. They plan to open in October. I was sent recently some updates on their project. It is looking really, really good in the Tillion project as a whole. So excited to see them officially open. And then just additional updates. Retail is making a little bit of a resurgence nationally. I put a snippet in your report from the Wall Street Journal. Talked about 1,000 net new stores in the U.S. We do have a lot of high economic uncertainty here locally because sales in the southern Idaho markets are stalling, but they're beginning to pick up quite a bit of late. Within the Boise MSA, this is according to a TOK report, we had $111 million that has traded in the first half of 2023, which is down 89% compared to the same time period in 2022. So although it's down, again, we're starting to see a little bit of an uptick of late. And then higher interest rates, as you all know, that's going to continue to keep financing in a very difficult or precarious state. But we're still working with groups to find solutions on their developments. The groups that we see that are progressing are the ones that had projects on the books from a long time ago and are making headway, and the ones that just recently were approved or were working on plans just recently are really struggling to make things work pro forma wise. So we're working closely with them to find solutions. And with that, that's all I have, unless there are any questions for me.
Questions for Steve? Mr. Allgood?
Would you remind me, what's going in just east of Flying J? I mean, I know that we've got the big building that's farther out there, but there's a big blank spot just east of Flying J. Is that spoken for? What's going there?
Just east of Flying J, Chairman, Commissioner, so that one is owned by a group, Freightliner Northwest. They're a trucking company. I think it's that 40-acre parcel that's right on aviation in 2026.
Yes.
So they are planning a facility there. They have not moved forward with definitive plans quite yet, but it is planned to be developed by that group.
Yeah, we had some discussion and planning. I just couldn't remember what was going in there. It's been kind of bare a while. I hope they get going.
Yeah, that one was put on hold because they had some other projects out of state that were commanding most of their attention. But I imagine within the next few years or so, you'll start to see some activity out there.
Mr. Hilty? Sure.
Steven, who came up with the name Project Titanic?
Jeez, good question.
Chairman Mark,
Own it,
that
Steve.
is my creative imagination coming out. That's some ingenuity that you're seeing on full display. So.
And the other question was that open house for Federated Ordnance, wasn't there a request to RSVP for that? You might want to mention if they want to show up. Is that the one that there was a security concern that
Absolutely. Thank you for mentioning that. And I think really, yeah, they're trying to just get an accurate head count. So please let me know. What I'll do is I'll forward the invite to everyone here. And of course, if you can make it, we'd love to have you. But thank you for the reminder, Mark. Really appreciate that.
Well, now you got my curiosity. What's the security concern? Oh, okay. I've been around that for a while.
Really, really cool. The technology within that building is quite breathtaking. So they've invested quite a bit in the Caldwell community, and man, I'll tell you what, that was a really big win for our department, for the city, and for the state of Idaho, really.
Other questions for Steve?
Chairman, I have a question.
Mr. Moore?
Stephen, it was good to see you Friday evening at that ribbon cutting. Cool little business, great little area, kind of a dilapidated area. It's pretty neat to see how that's all taken off. Switching gears into the metered parking. So I printed out the advertisement, the article in Tuesday's paper. I'm just kind of going over it, had some questions, and I wrote them down because it was a while ago. But I want to read this out, share what my thoughts were. Thursday, September 5th, in the Idaho Tribune, it said paid parking or metered parking to be implemented has a different pay structure and zones that would cost a visitor a certain amount of money, or hourly and daily, and it was said to net funds derived from the metered parking system could be a good source of funding for such a costly parking project as a parking garage. It didn't say in the article how much the estimated return on investment or an estimated revenue annually would be generated from the meter parking system to help pay for the garage. So I'm curious what that amount is. And, you know, after all expenses are paid and the third party that's been picked to manage that, I guess I'm curious to see how much money is actually going to come from that. And it didn't say that in the article. I'm just wondering if you can.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore, those are great questions. What this group did, the car park, that was the group that was ultimately selected to manage our parking facilities downtown, they basically took comparable communities that they work with nationally and tied in a structure, a pro forma that we could look at to evaluate exactly what we might generate revenue-wise for the community. And going back and forth with them, our main goal was essentially to make sure that cars were circulated downtown, just to get cars moving and rotating throughout parking stalls, because that became a pretty prevalent issue upon looking at the parking study. So that became a number one priority for us. So in terms of the exact number that they were anticipating, I don't recall the exact number. I know that it could be in the hundreds of thousands as far as what you could generate. However, we're looking at doing a structure for the fees that are quite low in comparison to a city like Boise, for example. Yeah. Just to make sure, again, that we're working on that number one priority of just moving vehicles. And those two zones that were referenced in the article essentially would be the city core, and then just slightly outside that city core, but everything beyond the tracks would be free of charge as it is today. But we would look at maybe a structure where it would be $1.50 in the core, and then maybe $1 outside the core, and then everything beyond that free of charge.
So estimated annual 100,000 plus is what they're saying that it could net.
It could be. Again, I don't recall the exact number, but it depends on a variety of factors. We're actually still working through the specifics on that with the car park. They're coming into Caldwell for just a walk around for downtown, and then they have some subsequent open houses that they have with our BID as well as the broader community, just to make sure that the parking rates are in alignment with what the community should anticipate.
Gotcha. My second question is, it said a 500 stall parking garage is estimated at $22.5 million, which equates to $45,000 per stall. In the meetings that I've been in here in the last year and a half, whatever, I was there in that March meeting. I thought the quotes were somewhere between 50,000 and up. And I'm wondering if that 22.5 includes, the convention center, which I don't know if that's still going to go. But it seems like that 22.5 seemed like a pretty low number that was put in the paper, when I think it's more like a $40 or $50 million project. I mean, just trying to estimate it, because I read it and I'm going, boy, that sounds like a bargain. But really, I think it's more than that.
Yeah, Commissioner Moore, I was actually taken aback because the $45,000 per stall caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's going to vary, right? There's a lot of assumptions there just because we don't know exactly what components are gonna go into the facility.
Yeah.
And knowing now that we have a potential hotel project that will incorporate some convention center-like space, there may or may not be a need for a convention center within the garage. I know we've looked at that, and I think even identifying an adequate location, that's still something we're working through. So more workshops to come on the final analysis on that, but
Okay.
I do know that price point, that $45,000 per stall, it does take into account essentially not just the stall, but the overarching infrastructure that's tied to the facility as well. So it is something, I think if you don't have those extra layers to a garage, you can anticipate a price point such as that.
Cool, that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have anything?
No, I think, Mr. Chair, that,
You're good.
Mr. Jenkins is spot on, depending on the workshops and if the council approves one, how pretty we make it, and I think all that matters into that figure, so, but nothing's been approved clearly for a parking garage yet, so.
Just seemed a little light, 22.5. Sounds
I
like,
would be excited if it was.
yeah, exactly. Seemed like a half-price sale.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
That brings us to Ophelia. Good evening, Ophelia.
Good evening, Chair. Good evening, Commissioners. Go ahead and make this brief, starting with updates on the project. So project here, again, they were looking for 6,000 square feet of space. Unfortunately, we don't have the availability of that type of space in our community. They have shifted to working with developers within our community to help address their needs for a site in our community. Project Educate, this is the retail concept that is hoping to be the second of its kind in our downtown. They have identified a few options and hope to be open by spring of 2024. New projects, Project Zen, this is a retail concept seeking to move from another location in Canyon County to our downtown. They have identified a few spaces. It's a little tough though, because like Stephen mentioned, retail is still strong, and so there's not a lot of spaces that are available within our downtown. Project Bend, food concept seeking space near downtown. This concept will be the first of its kind in Canyon County and will create a fun environment for everyone to enjoy. My understanding from them is that they have made an offer for that property, and they're waiting to hear back from the owner of that property. Project Vet is seeking to relocate their shop to Main Street, and they've identified a couple options that may work for them. Project Flip, they are seeking to relocate their shop in Main Street, and they have actually signed a lease for that space. So I'll announce that at the next meeting. And it's just ending with downtown business updates. Hello Norman and Ruby Bloom are relocating to 921 Cleveland. They currently reside around the plaza. Pan Rico expanded to an adjacent building where former Olive and Vine used to occupy. Idaho Mercantile is closing their doors at the end of September. She has a couple of concepts in downtown Boise as well as in Garden City, and she wants to put a little bit more effort into those concepts. She loves Caldwell and will continue to visit Caldwell, is what she has shared with me. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Questions for Ophelia?
Okay.
Do you know whether or not Rediscovered Books has sold, or they still?
So Rediscover Books, they haven't sold. Originally, they had put out the building with the parking lot for $2.9 million on the market. They've revisited that sale and now are open to a potential lease for the 5,000 square feet of retail space at $18 a square foot, which is reasonable for our downtown. They've also separated the two parcels, which is the building is now on sale for $2.3 million, and the parking lot on sale now separately for $550,000. And they've had a couple offers, just not to where they feel comfortable moving forward with at the moment.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Wallace?
So we've got two businesses located, that are on the plaza now relocating off. And I think I recognize that address. That's right on the corner of 10th and Cleveland, right? Right. kitty corner from Walgreens and that
That-
building they just remodeled. You think they're gonna get better foot traffic there?
Yes, they feel that, it's one of the heaviest trafficked streets within within Caldwell. And so they feel that traffic, will put them, on the radar for everyone that's coming down, going on Cleveland and then on Blaine, so that visibility is there for them. They have worked out parking with Key Bank as well to add that additional parking, so they are leasing some space from Key Bank. So they've got great neighbors, and again, the traffic counts are there, so they feel very optimistic. They're also opening up an additional concept on the back of the building, which will be a salon, and so that traffic will then hopefully be the same traffic for those two shops up front. So, very optimistic. They're working on their signage right now and hoping to be into their space mid-October, right before the holidays. So really excited for them.
That gives you a couple places on the plaza you can.
And, one of the spaces, my understanding from the owner is that, it's been, taken up already, and the other one, still having conversations with them on that space.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have a question for
Mr.
Ophelia.
Moore? Mhm.
I'm always amazed at how many opportunities are coming this way, and as a banker, you know, the consumer confidence, it's a raising rate environment. I ask you guys this, frequently, but what's bringing all these opportunities? What's the biggest common denominators that you and Stephen see? 'Cause, is it a great city council and urban renewal committee? What,
Yeah.
all the inventory we have, what is it?
I think it's a little bit of everything. We have a very robust downtown. Destination Caldwell does an amazing job in creating these events, almost 365 a year, and they see that in other communities, their downtown is not as robust in terms of bringing that traffic. So they are excited, one, because they get that traffic through those events, and they can obviously put some of those marketing dollars elsewhere. I think another point that you made is really working with the city itself. We really do hold their hands. Stephen and I are very proud to do that with all of our businesses. Whether you are a business of one employee or a business of 100 employees, we'll walk you through the entire process. I was just sharing with Stephen recently, from Project Care, they are opening up a location in another Canyon County area, and they did indicate working with this Canyon County town is like working with the Holiday Inn Express. Working with Caldwell is like working with the Cosritz. So in terms of just comparing the services that we provide. So I think a little bit of everything. And of course, our permitting department does a great job in making sure that they understand the process. So we make ourselves available. Our mayor does a wonderful job as well. And even questions, I had a question from one of our downtown business owners. They are wanting to use a lot of the city images, such as the Indian Creek. And where does the city stand in terms of that? Are we okay with them selling certain things like T-shirts with the Indian Creek images? How does the city feel about that? And we're able to contact Mark and get an answer to them that day. So I think it's a little bit of everything.
Thank you. You know, in my travels, I come across people and they, doom and gloom, or this economy's slowing, rate environment. I'm like, look, just go to an urban renewal, go to a city council meeting, take a look at the agenda and look how much business is already aiming and lining up to go off. And if half of it goes off, geez, it'll be a great day in the neighborhood. But I appreciate those opportunities. I get motivated from it.
Thank you.
Mr. Allgood?
Mind if I ask a question kind of unrelated to this? But these guys are the experts. I got them here. So on the council side of things, we have developers lined up nightly to bring in new housing to Caldwell. As you and Stephen are just talking with business people, what is their expression of housing? Are they happy with where we're at? Are they saying we need more? Is that even a concern to them? What's their position as you guys are visiting with them?
Yeah, that's definitely a question that comes about. When you're working with large industrial users, number one question is, where am I going to get my workforce? Where are they going to live, right? Do we have enough rooftops? Just last year, we had a site selector, a company from out of state, that was asking questions in regards to moving their corporate or some of their corporate folks out here. Do we have that product, right? Do we have that product that is between 600 to 800,000? Or do my corporate folks have to go to Eagle or Meridian for that product? So that question comes about a bit in terms of moving those CEOs to our community. But the other question comes about, where are my folks that are working in production, the ones that are going to be making $19 an hour? Do we have the affordable housing in our community? So we still need more rooftops, and of course, rooftop also brings other businesses to our community as well. So yes, those questions are asked on a daily basis. And in terms of city council, they do pay attention. They do watch the city council meetings to determine if we have the right environment for their project in our community.
So, in your mind, the consensus is we still need to continue with building some houses at this point?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's just from an economics perspective. You can ask me for my personal opinion. I may have, that might differ, but.
Two different things.
Yeah, two different things.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Market, and then the price of houses go down.
Any other questions for Ophelia?
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Ophelia. Much appreciated. Mr. Hilty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll start off with Amano, and the update there. There's been some activity on this, project, but I want to preface the comments by saying, this will be presented to you, as an action item at your next meeting. What is going on is they're going to scale back their project. I know that that's something we're hearing with other projects. This group, unlike others, unfortunately, that we've dealt with, has made robust progress. They are reworking plans. They're looking at their budget. They're looking at financing. They're looking at alternate financing options. They are communicating with us about all of this. And what, in communication with their attorney about what could happen at this meeting, we kind of decided, look, I'll convey that an update, but I think the best way to approach this issue is to come before the commission at the meeting in October with a time frame, the revised project, and a revised DDA as a package, so that you guys can listen to the entire pitch about how this project is going to change and what it means, and why. And then if you are agreeable, you can approve the amendment to the DDA at that time. So we'll keep it all nice and tight that way. While the scope and size of the building is going to be reduced, it's going to be reduced by eliminating the second story, which, as you'll recall from their RFP proposal, was office space. So they're not really pulling back on their restaurant plan. The schedule of performance that you'll see will look like commencement of construction in February of 2024, completion of construction and opening at the end of October of 2024. Now, that's not what's on the books now. That's what they're going to be proposing, I believe, next month. They're working with Kreisenbeck contractors on that, and their architects are...
They're out of California, but I don't recall.
Okay. Well, that doesn't help. They have a very robust architectural group. They've got a good team, even though these people are restaurateurs. They're not developers, but they've got a good team around them. So anyway, that's the update on Amano. It's sort of a stay tuned. There are some changes coming, but these are market driven, and they're going to present the whys and answer questions at the next meeting. I did get a letter from their attorney today sort of outlining specifically what they're doing with some of the adjustments and why, the financing, the schedule of performance, the input from architects, the input from contractors. I mean, it's very much easier to have faith when we're having that level of communication, frankly. So anyway, that's the Amano update for tonight. I'd certainly stand for questions you have on that one before I move on.
Mr. Moore, you're leaning in?
Oh, yeah. No, you go ahead.
Oh,
Go right ahead.
Okay. Prior to Amano, we had another developer that wanted to build on that site, and they came in with a scaled-back version, and we declined. Are we putting ourselves in a bad decision if we accept the next scaled-back version?
From a legal perspective, no, you have the authority to make that decision just like you did last time. Whether there's an inconsistency there that concerns you is your call.
Thanks.
Nice try.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Moore?
question. So I guess I was pretty surprised at the second request that they came in and asked for an additional update, additional funds. I think Councilman Doty kind of let them have it there at the start. I was very surprised at how inadequate the request was. It didn't have any supporting figures or documentation.
I think, is this the same project you're talking about?
Yes. And the Amano project. And they had their project manager, I believe, present. So I guess my only thing is this. If they would come in October with all their information, I mean, if we could, and I don't know, is their builder, their developer, are they able to come? Because I'd hate to see this thing, stretch out further, like, a current project. And I was very surprised at that request. So I would just hope that they would come with adequate information so that we could make some decisions and move forward.
I will pass that along.
Yeah, save time for everybody.
Mr. Allgood? You're good? Okay. Any other questions on this particular matter?
Okay. On Aztec Development, as I reported last time, we had previously sent in July the 60-day notice required under the contract to terminate that, asserting that they were out of compliance with their schedule of performance. There was also a requirement in the language for a meeting within 30 days. That meeting did occur within 30 days. It was agreed at the meeting that they would have to come up with a new schedule of performance. Again, as you'll recall, I've been talking about the need for specific hard dates. That has not materialized. 60 days runs in about 10 days from tonight. My plan is to go ahead, based on your authorization previously, to send the notice of default, to then send a notice of termination after that time expires. That will be before your next meeting. This is not on the agenda for an action item tonight. I don't think it's necessary, but if you have any concern about that course of action, you might let me know.
I support that course of action.
And you can communicate to Mr. Sanga that there's a parking lot available now if he needs parking for his.
We'd also be willing to hand deliver this notice. That would speed things along.
Understood. Moving on. On the property taxes, interest, and penalties, I don't have an update for you. As you'll recall from our last meeting, the county had received my analysis. They were going to work with their attorneys on sort of evaluating my argument that they should be paying over the taxes, the taxes, interest, and penalties to the agency. Of course, it's not an issue for what we're closing out here, but would be for the next one. So we're waiting on that, and I will try to get. I'll reach out to them and kind of find out where that's at. Have a better update for you at the next meeting. There's an associated issue that arose in the economic meeting this morning, and it's one that I've had to wrestle with as well. You may have constituents, taxpayers in the county, that look at their tax bill, which, as you'll recall, if you're a property owner, it's got an itemization of the various taxing districts and then the amount of your tax bill that's attributable to each of those taxing districts. What the assessor's office, I believe, is where this started, has done on its own initiative is they have identified the Caldwell Urban Renewal Agency, I think they do the same thing in Nampa, as a taxing district, and then they take the increment amount and show that as a tax levied by the Urban Renewal Agency, which is misleading. The agency is not a taxing district. It does not levy a tax. That increment, as you're aware, is composed of a portion of the taxes levied by the other taxing districts, the actual taxing districts, which would be the cities, counties, school districts, the highway districts, mosquito abatement district. There's a list of them. The chairman asked me just to kind of clarify this. if you are asked about the taxes levied by the Urban Renewal Agency, like the stock response would be, we don't levy taxes, but then they could show you their assessment notice and be asking that question. That is not a tax levied by the agency. The county has decided to, I guess, advertise to their public that a portion of their taxes is going to the Urban Renewal Agency. They haven't, when I last reviewed one, I had a client who brought it into me, and I was telling him he was full of beans because that wouldn't be there, and so sure enough, he showed me his assessment. It was, so when I last looked at it, that was what appeared there, and there didn't appear to be any explanation about the fact that an urban renewal agency is different than a taxing district. It appeared there like a city, a county, a school district, something like that. So anyway, I don't know that the amount listed there is inaccurate regarding what is transferred to the agency as increment, but it is represented as a tax, and it is not a tax. Any questions on that?
No, Mr. Hilty, I talked with Chairman this morning about that. I was asked at the Culture Hotel Gate, how many more projects are you going to approve and create and raise my taxes? So, yeah, we discussed that. So thanks for that clarification.
Sure. People's taxes go up whether or not there's an agency or not.
Sure. It's all in the disclosure.
Yeah.
Perceived.
As you'll recall, I think Councilman Stoddick appeared before this body to talk about the assertion that there's a connection between urban renewal activity that forces the other taxing districts to raise taxes to cover increment. I shared my assessment at the time. That may happen at some level. It would be very difficult to determine that, particularly with a smaller urban renewal area like we have in the north area. It's just a fraction. It's I think less than 1% of the real estate in the county is in there, and so the notion that some level of increment might cause a county or a school district on the whole to have to increase taxes to cover it is going to be very difficult to try to quantify. That's my assessment of it.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Doty?
That may be a lot of the confusion within the community. I'm wondering if it's worth a press release or something of that nature. That doesn't have to be decided right now, but maybe, and still people read what they want to, but at least we put out an effort to make that clear.
Explain how it works. Yeah.
A good idea.
I would be happy to draft something for your review.
Thank you.
And I asked Mark a little earlier this morning too, how do other counties handle this? I mean, are the counties showing that as basically a tax on their property tax statement? And or is our particular Canyon County a unique situation that way? So
I don't know the answer to that, but we could look into it. Lastly, then, on TS development, I'll have a meeting on Thursday afternoon with Mr. Maben. He's the attorney for the developer there. I think we need to get back up to speed. As far as I know, they're still working directly with the reuse appraiser on finalizing their reuse appraisal. So, and planning to develop consistent with their proposal. That concludes my report. I stand for any questions you have.
Any other questions for Mr. Hilty? Very good. Thanks, Mark. Brings us to our commissioner reports. Does anybody have anything that they would like to share this evening?
Chair,
Mr. Doty?
I'd just like to say, God bless our first responders, 9/11 today, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that remembrance.
Mr. Chair, we're having an event tomorrow at the Cole Alliance Park with the mayor. So everybody was there last year. A lot of improvements going to happen, so we're
Am I
excited.
supposed to be there this year? You know Councilman Olga, what the list, is it me? Thank you.
Anybody else? I just have a quick question. Raylene, how are things progressing with Clearwater on their assessment?
Really, really well. We are meeting, we have a working group meeting every Thursday, and we're working towards, I believe, Doug is going to have something on city council, if I remember, on the 19th. It's a declaration? Yes.
Are they still on track to hit September 30th? Is
Yes,
that
for the
completion date?
feasibility study, that's the end date for,
Okay,
yes.
very good.
And I just wanted to mention, when you said press release I am working for the city website on it's not quite done yet, on how property taxes are calculated for the finance page. So I can definitely put something out on the urban renewal page too, so.
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Raylene. Nothing else to add? Mr. Moore?
Chairman, I have a question, and this is kind of, real kind of off the wall here, but I've got the attorney here. The economic development meetings that are had, I guess there was one yesterday, is that right? Or
This morning.
economic development meeting?
Yes, every Monday morning at 9.
Can I attend those? Is that open to the public, or is that closed door session? Cake or anything like that?
It is not open to the public. It's not a public meeting. If you wanted to attend one, we could probably accommodate you.
Yeah, but I can only attend one? I can't go every week?
I don't know, you want to go every week?
I mean, the more I can learn about this stuff and be fluent on it, it
Yeah.
makes it so much easier, especially when I'm at a C of I game and somebody comes up to me and starts asking me things, you know?
Well, and yeah, that wasn't, I think you prompted the discussion that we had this morning, probably is how that went. The reason I'm hesitating, it's the mayor's team, right? He puts it together for that purpose. Talk to Jerem, be my recommendation. There isn't, it's not open to the public, but you're not necessarily public.
Got it.
You certainly couldn't have a quorum there, right? Then it becomes an open meeting, and that could be problematic, so.
Right.
Based on the stuff we discussed. So, but, I think it might be a good idea. I would support, with the mayor, allowing some attendance at some point. Probably good for each of you to attend one of those meetings and just kind of see what we do.
Thank you.
Anything else? Somebody have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
We have a motion by Mr. Doty.
Second.
Second by Ms. Warwick. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good evening, everybody.